Along with the two shop TR6 restorations and my two personal Spitfire restorations, we're working on this TR6 which belongs to John Malone. I mentioned it already a couple of times in my videos. This is what it looked like a month ago, and this is what it looks like today. The engine is taken apart, the frame is sitting and waiting for the body, and the body is over there in need of some repair. So in this video series I'm gonna show you what's happening with it. Initially the car came for a frame repair, and I already showed you how I did that, but as it usually happens, one thing leads to another, and while we were working on the frame we figured out that the body needs some repair, so John asked us to do it, and he also asked us to rebuild the engine. Now we're talking about suspension, changing all the bushings, etc., so it is almost full restoration already. I kind of started working on everything at the same time because I wanted to take the engine apart and order the parts that I need, and while they come I wanted to work on the body. So the body is now completed. That's why I'm gonna show you in a couple of videos what I did to it, and then I'm gonna jump back to the engine. Okay, so what I have to do here, I wanted to change this cap on the rocker because it was rotten, but when I started digging further I saw that this is all rotten on the fender, so it needs to be replaced. So I'm taking out the fender now to see what I can do there, but what happened, the front part, everything splitted. Here it's ready to go out. Oh, by the way, look how they fitted the panel. They just filled the rest of it with Bondo and drew a line here. And the other surprise I found on this fender, for some reason it was welded to the body. So I have to cut it, and I'm sure I'm gonna find more surprises underneath. Oh, look at the condition of this fender. And here I found out why it was welded, because it was missing the whole flange there and it couldn't be mounted without welding. Obviously this fender mount or stand, whatever it is too far gone and it's beyond any repairs. But unfortunately it wasn't available as a spare part in any of the major British car parts suppliers, so I had to figure out how to build it myself. So it took me some tinkering until I figured out how to attack the problem. It had such a complicated shape that it was really hard to think of how exactly I could do it. It was only after I watched Jade Medley's video about metal shaping tips and tricks part 2, I think, when I really had some idea. I still didn't know exactly what to do, but I spent one whole Sunday in the shop making templates, doing different trials and errors, but at the end of the day I had one ready stand that fitted perfectly. So it was worth the time invested, because now I have a solution for this really common TR6 problem. I'm not gonna show you all the details of making all the templates and the trials and the errors. I'm gonna jump directly into making the first stand. So first off I had to remove the old stand or whatever's left from it, as I had to unfold the whole flange and try to keep it in one piece. Luckily it wasn't rotten, it was only the stand that was rotten, which was the lucky part. There were also a couple of spot welds that held the stand to the fender while they were folding the flange, so I had to grind these off, and then I was able to remove all the bits and pieces from the stand. I used the wire wheel to grind and clean the area under the stand, and as expected I found two areas where the rust from the stand spread it on the fender too and rusted through into little holes. So I had to patch those two areas, but before that I wanted to make the stand because I couldn't wait to try my new technique. So this is the first successful sample that I made in Sunday, and this is the template that I used. I painted it orange because in the shop we have a rule: the orange pieces are templates and nobody cuts them or uses them for anything else. So this is the technique that I learned from Jade Motley. Just put a template on the table, clamp your workpiece on top of it and hammer around until you have the shape that you want. But the tricky part here in this particular case is that the width of the flange is not even from one end to the other. It varies. In one end it's half an inch, then in the middle it goes down to quarter inch, and then in the other end it goes up again to I think around three quarters of an inch. So I had to use those washers as spacers to keep the template at a different height from the bench, and this is how I can use this template for left and right side. So here you can see how the height varies from one end to the other. And the following doesn't need explanation. And voila, the first part is ready. That was the easiest part though. So I compared it to this other stand that I took out from another Fender that was sitting into our shop. Just wanted to see if the width was matching, which it did. So I cut it down to the proper size now. Then I cut this other piece that was gonna form the other flange. I have a template for it, which I've done again last Sunday. And then I started tacking it in place. And when it was all tacked, I started welding it, and I was using the air blower to keep it cooled down so it doesn't warp. And then I ground it to give it nice and smooth finish. Next I marked and cut the internal flange to the correct size. And then it was time to fit it on the fender. And it fit like a glove. I was really happy. Then I marked and drilled the holes for the set screws. And then I painted it with rust guard. While the paint was drying, I fixed the rotten part of the flange and the two areas where the fender was rusted through, and painted everything with rust guard inside. I left the corner for later when I have the stand inside, so I can have two layers of metal there and weld them together. To be able to fit the stand on the exact spot in the fender, I needed to have the two parts mounted on the car so they take their exact position. I had to remove all that extra bond that they put there so I can fit the fender properly. I fastened the fender with the bolts to make sure that it sits right where it was supposed to be. I made sure that it fits the door, it matches the curve, because once it was secured to the stand, the adjustment to the fit would be really hard. Once I was happy with the fit, I bent the flange over the stand in a couple of places so the two parts get secured together, and then I took the fender out and finished it on the bench. I tucked it in a couple of places so it doesn't move on me, and then I bent the flange down. And then I fitted it one more time to make sure that nothing changed while I was bending the flange down. I was happy with the fit, so I could move on to the other repairs on the same fender. I figured that one of the causes for excessive rust in some areas were big chunks of undercoat in some corners, which were collecting debris and mud and stuff that was absorbing the water and holding it there for days until it dries out. So actually sometimes the undercoat, if not applied properly, can cause more damage than help. So I cut out the rotten parts of the flange and replaced them with new fresh metal. There must be a hole somewhere there for a screw, but the flange was so rotten that I couldn't use it as a pattern, so I'm gonna have to mark that hole when I put the fender on the car. There was another little repair to be done here. Here I tried to keep the hole on the flange so I don't need to drill another one later. And with that the fender was ready. I just needed to paint the areas where I welded and where there was bare metal. So again I used the rust guard paint, and I could move to the repairs on the body under the fender, but for that I'm gonna show you in my next video about this car. So see you later guys, bye.